I don't think that there's been a more important time for viewers, consumers, audiences to have access to great, accurate, and truthful news.
Too many companies have provided too big of an easy button to let buyers just block news. Mm-hmm. It's just a media planning miss that people aren't doing their jobs properly from a reach and frequency and delivering ROI.
We like to call ourselves misfits, and I feel like our goal has been to disrupt the traditional agency model.
Some of the secret sauce, if you will, behind Barometer is it's not just the sentiment, but it's the tone. How are you really speaking about the subject?
Hey, it's E.B. Moss, and this is episode 16 in season 2 of Insider Interviews, where you always get the insider's scoop on the business of media, marketing, and advertising. And in this episode, you're going to get 3 scoops. First, with Prohaska Consulting and E.W. Scripps, then Marketing Architects, and finally, Barometer. Each has a complementary, if different, perspective about things ranging from the brand safety of news to more effective buying and selling, and how to measure brand safety overall, including of the news. We did it ad hoc during CES, so you might hear some ambient noise, but that's the nature of ad hoc. Thanks for listening. Hey, it's E.B. Moss, and we are at CES, and I've come across some amazing thought leaders, as I do. It is Matt Prohaska of Prohaska Consulting.
Great to be with you, E.B.
Thank you. And Brian Norris of E.W. Scripps lately.
Yes, thanks for having me, E.B.
Good to see you again.
Yes.
I know you both from kind of way back, so I appreciate your flexibility and spontaneity and chatting about some stuff that you guys are working on together. And I will reveal all, but just to give everybody a little bit of a background, I mentioned CES. It stands for, of course, the Consumer Electronics Show. Do you know how it started?
Its origins probably, the first tape recorder in 1874 or something like that?
Pretty close.
Yeah.
It started as an offshoot of the Chicago Music Show.
Oh.
That was like in the 60s.
Pretty good place for music.
Yeah. I think that it was all about hi-fi. Now we're kind of all about Wi-Fi.
That's right.
And there are more media and marketing folks here than ever, I think. About 140,000 people. I don't know what percent in the industry, as we say, but...
Most fortunately, it's quality and quantity returning for sure. And we were just saying before we got started that most of us can't even make it to the actual floor because there's so much great activity just between the ARIA and Cosmo and everywhere else, right?
Yes.
And great opportunities like this.
I did do like the PDQ walk the floor, and there were some fascinating things. But let's explain why you're sitting in a little suite with me and what we're going to talk about. So, Brian, you're the new guy now at Scripps.
Yes.
You'd been at Dish and NBCU. What are you doing there?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I've been at the company for a little over 4 months now, and the opportunity that exists in front of us is one that I'm really not seeing across the landscape. And I think the opportunity is really about finding solutions for clients and specifically being able to innovate to find solutions across the news landscape. Additionally, we've made a big bet on sports, in particular women's sports and regional sports.
Yay.
So from a news and sports perspective, I mean, being able to find audiences in a live environment, that was it for me. That sold me.
And describe E.W. Scripps and some of its properties.
Yeah, sure. So E.W. Scripps is a little bit over 140-year-old company with roots in journalism. And those roots are really the foundation of what we do across the national landscape in servicing local communities. That's the foundation of our company, right? But when you think about how the company has evolved over the last 5 to 10 years, we've made investments in acquisitions of networks, including Ion, Bounce, Scripps News, and just a host of other networks that are 100% OTA. And that serves as a great complement to all of our local pieces of content across the country. Yep. And not to mention the investment that we've made in CTV. Yep. Our tech stack is really a pristine tech stack for advertisers to really transact and be able to live in a brand safe environment.
Wow, 4 months, you really understand your product. You are an excellent spokesperson for E.W. Scripps already.
Yes.
That's great. But I know that you've been in this industry for a long time, as has Matt Prohaska Consulting. And I know you teed up Scripps News, which is something that is going to be the common thread here to this conversation. But Matt, tell us about Prohaska Consulting.
Yeah, we've only been around about 130 years fewer than Scripps. We're grateful to be turning 10 years old at the end of February. But our mission has been to assist intentionally equally without conflict the entire ecosystem of players, from great publishers like E.W. Scripps to tech and data companies that sit in between the buyer and seller, to other buyers and marketers and agencies, and then everybody else that participates quite actively, from investors, trade groups, even governments. So our goal is just to make the entire industry better, and we do that one client at a time, with fortunately over 600 clients now over 10 years, with about 40 different services helping around either improving everybody's tech, their targets, which is audience data, or most importantly, their talent, because as we say, the tech and the targets are relatively easy to optimize or set up. It's us darn human beings that sometimes get in the way around transformation.
You're also both strategic thinkers, you're big picture thinkers. And Brian, I know from reading your press release, you said you want to keep challenging the status quo. So as promised, I want to talk about Scripps News and why we're sitting here with Matt Prohaska and what we're facing with news and what needs to change in that status quo.
Right. So I'll start talking about where we are right now in 2024.
Okay.
I don't think that there's been a more important time for viewers, consumers, audiences to have access to great, accurate, and truthful news, right? I think we can all agree upon that. What else is important is that we make sure that advertisers, we give them the information to help them break the status quo. If we're talking about the status quo and how it shows up today in 2024, many advertisers exclude news from media buys. Mm-hmm. And then when we dig in as to the reasons why they exclude news, they're excluding news because they want to be in a brand safe environment, right? We can all understand that. But then when you dig a little bit deeper, what you find is that really it's not the news that they're afraid of. They don't want to be around polarizing opinions
stories
and stories, but I'd say more so opinions, because if the news is the news and it is a fact-based news environment, right, then why wouldn't you be around that? That's what's happening in the world. Think about the support of nightly news, the support of news magazine shows. None of that is opinion-based. It's all fact-based, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we do at Scripps News is we're trying to educate the marketplace on what is it that they are afraid of, and how can we combat that in a brand safe environment by digging deep into stories that consumers care about, whether it's politics, whether it's financial health, whether it's their own physical health, right? And just telling great stories, and not to mention being able to entertain an audience at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think most advertisers, when you ask an advertiser to think about it and put their consumer hat on and their viewer hat on, they love to be around content like that.
Sure.
And so that's what we're really trying to evangelize, is the importance of non-opinion, non-talking head news, and really drive home the importance of fact-based news that also serves as a platform for entertainment and education.
So, Matt, with your research and strategy hat on, your advisory role, how are you helping companies like E.W. Scripps move that ball down the field?
Yeah, so just for context and the background of why we created this initiative called the Rebranding of News, we've done several industry-wide initiatives to just try to raise the bar and have all boats rise. When we launched programmatic buyer and seller training 10 years ago with the IB and the ANA and taught more than 3,000 people in 8 countries. When we did post-cookie targeting analysis 18 months ago, trying to show people that you need multiple identity solutions to be able to recreate scale that has been coming in cookies before. We wanted to launch something that could be of the entire industry because the pendulum has swung way too far against spending news, as you just heard from Brian. News has become a 4-letter word and a third rail for way too many people. This is something that's been personal for me for 30 years. I'm wearing my Syracuse orange socks for the occasion.
Don't think I didn't notice, by the way.
Newhouse Mafia shout out. But also it's because news is our number one category of publishers that we've helped. And we see a direct connection between not just the perceived brand safety issues that Brian was just talking about eloquently, but just the operational aspect where there's a policy issue with buyers, and then there's also a technical targeting where too many companies have provided too big of an easy button to let buyers just block news. So the research that we are announcing here at CES, that we, Michelle Manansky, our research lead, and we partnered with our great folks and friends at Advertiser Perceptions, is to show we proved out and demonstrated that actually 1 out of 3 U.S. marketers are blocking news entirely. The entire category, not discerning anything between great publishers like Scripps or our other friends at Newsbreak and Daily Voice or the New York Times or Washington Post or Brian's great alma mater, NBC Universal, or any of that versus disinformation versus even the 1% we see as a consumer of anything that would cause concern, whether that is unfortunate wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, whether that is an unfortunate accident with an airline, the typical things that would cause concern now has become, I just don't want to be a part of it. And so it's not just a moral and ethical
step away.
Yeah. And so it's been not just an ethical issue and a moral issue of funding great quality journalism to sustain some important things that are kind of needed in America, especially in 2024 these days, but it's just a media planning miss that people aren't doing their jobs properly from a reach and frequency and delivering ROI, which is supposed to be the point. Instead, they think they're finding it in other places. And we could talk about the 10 other reasons why news has been underfunded, like needing to teach people how to read beyond a headline in social media, some other citizenry things that we're probably going to tag team with the wonderful Scripps Foundation about, because our morals and mission are very much aligned on this. But it's to re-educate folks that spending needs to go back to the people who actually hire and have reporters and journalists and cover things locally, nationally, and globally.
Right. And I've talked about this in some past episodes too, and there's 2 things that I want to talk about. One, Brian, on the E.W. Scripps side, you have some great quality journalism there. And so if we miss out on ad dollars, how does that impact what you're able to pay for?
Yeah, ad dollars, it fuels it all, right? And so we kept the commitment to provide great quality journalism, not just to a national audience, but to local markets across the country. And that needs to be fueled by ad dollars. It's a simple equation. But the value that we think that we provide back to the advertiser is needed by them. Advertisers want to find audiences in live environments. They want to find audiences that aren't skipping commercials, right? They want to find audiences that are engaged in the content.
Yes.
I think that news accomplishes all of that.
I'm a news junkie, and I am constantly switching back and forth to my couple of favorite providers of it, but it's the first thing I turn to. Matt, how are we going to leverage some of your research to communicate what consumers like, and what's the quality of the audience like? What have you unpacked?
Yeah, so today at CES is just releasing the results of the study around the buyer behavior and sentiment, some of the differences between how agencies feel and their clients feel independently, interesting, and then some of the categorization or subcategorization as well, to be able to give some best practices. But we're doing a multi-month tour talking to top agencies, top marketers, and top other tech partners to frankly reteach people and show them why it's important to include news, again, from an ROI and outcome-based standpoint first, and then how easy it is and how you don't have to use a sledgehammer approach, blocking everything, maybe a little bit more of a scalpel. And let's not toss aside the 95+% that anybody would say is perfectly brand safe in a quality environment.
Yeah, and I'd also say, E.B., you said something that was very important a couple seconds ago. You said you switch from news provider to news provider.
Yeah.
And I think that habit is probably common amongst Americans, right? And what you're trying to do, maybe not you, but many other Americans, they're trying to hear the story from both sides.
You're exactly right.
To form their own opinion. However, why should you have to go from one extreme to the next to actually try to find the truth in that, right? And so we think about it when we talk about non-opinion based news, we think about it as delivering the news from the middle, so to speak, right? And actually giving facts so that the audience can form their own opinions and not necessarily have to switch from one side of the story to another side. Really be able to consume the facts and come up with your own opinion of the situation.
So Brian, you're basically CRO.
Correct.
In this space now, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Why don't you speak from what you're seeing in terms of the quality of the audience? Because if they're like me, they're educated and they're
Yeah.
Tell me more about the average news listener.
Yeah.
Watcher.
Yes. So from a Scripps news perspective, we are an OTA platform available for free to every American in the United States.
And that's over the air.
Oh, yes, over the air, as well as we have distribution across FAST as well.
Okay.
So again, an opportunity for consumers to engage with the content for free. And what we're seeing is that because of the nature of OTA and FAST, we're seeing a much younger audience consume our content, talking about a 38-year-old median age for streaming, and then a 40-year-old median age for OTA. Not to mention the multicultural factor being, in most cases, greater than 2x our competitors. So we are delivering stories for a multicultural United States, right? And that content is being consumed by a multicultural audience. And by the way, when you start thinking about the household income of these young people, these young multiculturals, household income across FAST and streaming is greater than $75,000 per household. So we're delivering a younger audience. We're delivering an audience that has more disposable income. And I think we're delivering an audience that craves unbiased news.
Yeah.
And I think it's representative in the fact that we over-index from a multicultural standpoint because we're not alienating any parts of the viewer base.
So between your multi-month push and the stats that you have about your audience and what you've been uncovering in your research, the rebranding of news, this will hopefully be a slam dunk. So let's say advertisers, brands, you need to get into news, get back into news, dump a ton of dough in so that the quality rises, you get a really great quality audience. What else?
Yeah, as we know, there's kind of an important election coming up here in November in this country.
That.
Scripps will be covering it, as they always do, very, very well across every market and nationally. The optimist and the positive and the reasons why you want to do this and what will benefit is that, again, we'll have a more informed citizenry first and foremost, but marketers will actually drive better outcomes. As long as they're not just looking at last click, last touch, primitive attribution methods that have favored, quite frankly, companies that have some strength in search or social or e-commerce or apps, when really a lot of that top funnel, even mid funnel and bottom funnel has been driven by companies like Scripps. So that's why we're incredibly grateful and proud that they're the lead publisher underwriter of this. But yeah, the goal is to go back and frankly reteach a lot of agencies and brands where we've got an entire career generation of buyers that have gone 10 years and have thought that their jobs are buying open auction, cookie retargeting, and phishing. And while that should still be a component, it should not be the dominant form of a media plan. We should remember that publisher relationships, and we emphasize human relationships between a seller and a buyer, is pretty key. So being able to add that with data and insights and then measuring it appropriately is where we hope we can kind of raise the bar or re-raise the bar and have a little bit of a flashback to what marketing traditionally used to be, benefiting the publishers and the audiences.
Yeah. Beautifully summed up there. And I think that we have a great yin-yang here between, the facts, the stats, the quality, and the mission to rebrand news between the two of you and hopefully get a lot more people on board to embrace news again. What's news is news.
That's right.
So, Brian Norris and Matt Prohaska, thanks so much for sitting down with me. It's great.
Thank you.
I'm
Thanks,
excited
Amy.
to help you spread the word, and I think we can link to this report. So,
Yeah, it'll be off of prohaskaconsulting.com. Thanks to Rich Ullman and the whole team for putting that up, and obviously again for Scripps and all of our partners for making it happen.
excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I have to give you the setting for this segment of Insider Interviews. I'm sitting on a bed with two other people at a suite in the Aria Hotel. Why, you might ask? You know, you have to catch as catch can when there's a convention with 140,000 people, 2 million square feet of show floor with a lot of those newfangled inventions. But I really wanted to get some of the knowledge down of the folks in media, marketing, and advertising that have really comprised so much more of what CES is all about. So I want to welcome two of them, Catherine Walstad and Aaron Lange. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
So we grabbed somebody's hotel room to have a little peace and quiet and talk about what you do differently at Marketing Architects, because I think that this is almost as inventive as the self-cleaning kitty litter invention I saw on the show floor. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, I think we like to call ourselves misfits, and I feel like our goal has been to disrupt the traditional agency model.
So what does Marketing Architects do differently?
Well, we are a performance marketing agency that serves clients that are looking to be in television and streaming. And we are different in that the typical fee-for-service model that an agency has, we've kind of flipped that on its head and said, we are going to offer all of the services that you need, from creative production to strategy work, analytics. All you pay for with us is the media and the costs that are involved with the actual spots that air in television and streaming. So just pay us for the media that we run, and that really has kind of taken away those barriers to television that a lot of marketers just can't overcome.
A lot of marketers. Also, you have some pretty sophisticated technology, right, Aaron?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the guy who does the tech, so of course you're going to say yeah.
Of course, that's great. That's exactly it. We really pride ourselves on being inventive, and when you are providing and investing your own money in these brands, you're going to do it efficiently and smart. And so we double down on tech, and it's paid huge dividends so far.
That's fantastic. So I'm amazed that you're so generous with your time and sophisticated offerings that you don't take money up front. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but I want to know now what you each do a little bit more specifically, just in a nutshell.
Yep, so I lead the media team at Marketing Architects, and that involves the research, the planning, the strategy, and then the actual placement of media, the investment of it. And partner with Aaron's team to make sure that we're getting our clients the best media across the entire landscape of linear television and streaming at the best price. And of course, that has involved us making a significant investment in technology, and that's where kind of Aaron and my partnership comes into play.
Got it.
And then Aaron.
Yeah, so I joined about 8 years ago. My background is enterprise software development, and typically an agency of this size has no need for that. But the founders and things really wanted to see major investment there. We originally had a system that you could buy anywhere doing a lot of the media stuff, and it just wasn't working for Catherine's team. And so we sat down and really kind of decided to take my skills and a team that I have to build out our own software platform that allows us just the ultimate flexibility to handle our client needs no matter what comes at us, and really make Catherine's team as efficient as possible. So that's kind of the birth of our own software, and we call it Annika. So it has a name even.
Wait. You named your... Okay.
Yeah.
This is like very meta of you. Annika?
Hanukkah, yeah.
Not Hanukkah. Annika.
Not Hanukkah. Nope.
Okay.
And that's not to be confused with Aaron's daughter, Annika.
This was not an
hence
ego
the
play.
origins.
No, it was complete coincidence.
I don't buy it. I don't
either. Yeah. Well, how did it come about then, if it's not related to your daughter?
The marketing team came up with it. I literally had no say in it. I really didn't.
Yeah, we actually had 2 executives at the company with daughters named Annika, and neither one of them is the reason why the platform is named Annika.
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
It is.
Okay, so this is going to be a weird segue, but you guys have the best bios on your website. I encourage everybody to go to marketingarchitects.com, and when you hover over their photos, they flip to their alter ego, and the bios are your people after my own heart. I love it. So, Catherine, I know, for example, that you grew up on water skis.
Yes.
And now you're like a champion, and of course now you're a champion media seller. But I love that background. And Aaron, my favorite thing about you is that you kind of pissed your mom off because you were such a tech know-how little kid that you reconfigured a calculator into a keypad lock for your bedroom door.
Yeah. My family owned a Radio Shack, so I had early access to a lot of kind of geeky things back in the day. And obviously, as every adolescent kid wanted a little privacy, and so I tried to kind of come up with it. It worked. The bigger thing that she was mad at is I had to literally cut a hole in the wall for the keypad to sit in, and I'm not very good at that. So that's where the upset.
That.
Wait, you're not a handyman too?
No, that
you're a tech guy, not a handyman.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, being the tech guy, let's drill down for a second, so to speak, not in the wall, but let's talk about DSPs and SSPs. And they always confuse me, but the tech that you built is a DSP.
Correct.
Tell us about
the
acronyms.
It's you're not the only one. All the acronyms and all things, and it's ever changing. But the concept is when we started to look at building out Annika to handle the streaming, we looked at partnering with a DSP, and the challenge with DSPs that are out there in the marketplace is they provide quite a bit of value that, because of the way we buy and our approach to things, we didn't really take advantage of. So it made sense to kind of build our own. And so,
because DSP stands for demand side
correct.
Platform.
Yes.
The flip side is supply side platform.
That's exactly it. So
okay.
DSP is what typically agencies and brands will use to go out and find inventory and mirror their commercials to. And then SSPs, which is another acronym, is where the publishers themselves, the sources of it, are throwing their inventory out into a marketplace. And the idea in the simplest fashion is that publisher to SSP, SSP to DSP, DSP to the agent, and back and forth. Oof. However, it's not a linear path like that. Typically, it's a little bit more like a spider web. Mm. The publisher will go to one SSP. That SSP actually goes to another SSP, which might go to a third SSP, then to a DSP, which goes to another DSP, then to the brand.
Okay.
It gets really complicated really fast, and it's ever changing. And because of the complexity, you're seeing acquisitions and things like that kind of try to smooth that path.
So you're making customers' lives easier, eliminating half of that, and you basically built a better mousetrap.
Yeah,
okay.
We think
you
so.
You say so yourself.
That's right.
Okay, so Catherine, how does that help your world?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two main ways to acquire media. You can either go directly to a publisher, or you can go programmatically through a DSP or an SSP. And it's important for a buyer to understand the distinction between the two. When you're looking at the streaming landscape today, there are hundreds of publishers. There are platforms popping up every other day, and it's impossible for a buyer to navigate all of that. So you can, right? You can go transact directly with a Hulu, a Tubi, a Pluto. But what a DSP allows you to do is do that across the entire landscape of streaming, all those publishers, and bring all of your campaigns into one place. So you're not managing single IOs out to 12 different publishers. You can run one campaign that's got bylines that are accessing all of that media, but also allowing you to measure it effectively, optimize it more effectively, report out on it more effectively. So that's really what drew us to the concept of a DSP. But when we started to look at that space more closely, that supply chain that Aaron was just talking about, where it's multiple SSPs and sometimes multiple DSPs before you actually get to the publisher inventory, we were like, okay, we need to simplify this. Mm-hmm. We need to get the publisher more money for their inventory and get it at a lower cost for our advertisers, thus driving better value across that entire supply chain.
So you have the tech behind you. What are some of the challenges in today's TV landscape that you're also facing and that you advise clients on?
I would say cost is a big one. We started in linear television, and we have great publisher relationships and are able to get great rates for our clients. That's not the case in streaming for anybody. Streaming is anywhere from 5, 10, 20 times more expensive than linear television.
Really?
Yeah, and when you're a performance marketer, that is not a sustainable way to do business. They all want to be in streaming because that's what they hear about all the time.
So it's demand, as in the demand is driving the rates up. I didn't realize that had flipped like that. I just think about Super Bowl ads being so expensive, but now it's really CTV and streaming is the favorite child.
Yep.
Okay.
Besides the cost, is a big one.
There's another element to that cost is when streaming was first born, it kind of solved a problem that we had in linear, and that is the ability to target individuals. On the linear side, a lot of times you can kind of go local or you can go by the content genre, but you're not seeing individuals. If you have the ability to deep dive into data that you have and find this particular person bought my product 2 years ago, I want to put an ad in front of that person. That sounds really good to a marketer to be able to do that laser focus. And streaming allows that, because streaming, about 2 minutes before the ads are going to happen, your device in your home is sending out a signal to the marketplace, to one of those SSPs, and eventually to a DSP. And in one of those DSPs, somebody's going to say, if you see something come from this person based on IP address, I want to buy it. Well, to get that, you're probably going to pay a premium because you think it's going to give you the ROI, but also you need to get that person. You got to get it before anybody else does. So you're willing to pay a little bit more. So that initially, a couple of years ago when streaming came out, everybody was like, oh, this is game changer. Let's go after it. And I think for some brands, it can work.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of brands and a lot of misfires where the data being provided just wasn't as accurate as people thought, or that person that you thought bought it 2 years ago has moved on, and for whatever reason they're not interested in your product, and you just paid a premium to get in front of them. And so when we started looking at our own DSP, we really wanted to say, how do we do something different? And the idea was, maybe we don't spend all that extra money on the premium and the analysis and the data, and we just go after the content just like we do on linear. If one of our clients does really well on outdoor nature sports shows on linear, they're probably going to do well on that on streaming.
Right.
And streaming, the content is starting to merge so close to what's on linear now. I remember bringing up Philo, seeing the Game Show Network. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm watching it, seeing the ads and just learning. I'm like, wait a second. I walk over to my living room and I go in my cable box and I have a Game Show Network there. And it's it's the same thing.
Right.
I'm like, well, this is interesting. It's the same content. So if I can do ads on linear to the Game Show Network, I'll just do it on there. And so that's really where I say, a lot of DSPs add a lot of value, but the value they're adding is around that specific targeting that you can do. And we're like, well, what if you didn't do that? Can we save money for our clients, and can we still drive the ROI? And so far, it's worked.
So, Catherine, I think that Marketing Architects sounds like a holistic shop. You do so many things, and clearly you do the tech well. You can elbow the guy sitting next to you on the bed. And
we're sitting, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, they're not horizontal. But you have so many other divisions too.
Yes.
And you guys are like creative. You're soup to nuts. Do you interface with the other divisions?
Absolutely. It's imperative that we do. And there's an entire process to how it works. Step one is strategy. Who's your brand? What is the audience that you're trying to reach? And we have a team called Strategy IQ that spends hours and hours digging through third-party research and our own historical information to help build out an audience profile for our clients. Secondly, then it's like, okay, how do we take that profile and produce a piece of creative that tells the story for them? And so our creative team, they put together a performance brief, they go out and do a shoot, they come back and they edit and make beautiful spots for our clients.
And by the way, who are, can you name names? Do you have a couple of examples of clients that you're super proud of what you've done for them?
Absolutely, yeah. We work with Bosley Hair Restoration. They've been with us for a long time. We work with nuts.com. So if you've been on a Delta flight recently,
Yes.
you might have eaten some of their almonds. They're a lovely family-owned business out of New York that has absolutely blown up since COVID when they partnered with us for television. And so those are a couple.
Okay, so I interrupted you, but
That's okay. So yeah, then the creative production happens.
Yeah.
And then it comes to my team that figures out, okay, who do we need to get this creative in front of?
So all the ingredients are in the soup, and now you're serving it
Yes.
to all the people who are hungry for that product, and you're finding them and you're delivering it efficiently.
Correct.
So truly soup to nuts.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep. And we're using Aaron's technology to execute all that. And then that's not all. After that, then we have to measure it. And we have world-class
that.
analytics.
Okay.
Yeah. That little piece of it. How did it work?
Yeah.
We have a world-class analytics team that has built and stood up attribution models that we use to provide really sophisticated analytics to our clients so they can understand not only how the campaign performed, but why it performed well.
And by the way, that's important, not just for the clients, but you kind of hinted at the beginning that that's basically how you're going to get paid. Mm-hmm. I think that's fascinating. Give me the, I'll use the word nuts again, give me the nutshell of that business model. It seems unique.
Yes, absolutely. We call it all-inclusive television, and it is a model that I don't know if I'd call it the anti-agency model, but maybe the anti-traditional agency model, where it's a fee-for-service type of situation. We're not interested in that. We vet partners that are on a growth trajectory that we find interesting and has a product that we feel like we can tell a better story for, and we can bring growth to their business through video, whether that be television or streaming or both. And we make an investment in them through creative, through strategy, brand work, audience identification, analytics. All our clients pay for is the actual media that we place for them. So they get one bill for media and not a 15-page invoice with
Yep.
with a cost for the lunch we took them out to.
Yes.
and
Oh, that.
the 10-person meeting that we had to talk about their next piece of creative to produce. So it's very different. It's something that definitely isn't for everyone, and we don't want to work with every advertiser. We want to work with advertisers that truly have a potential for growth, that we feel passionate about and want to invest in.
It's so refreshing. And, you know, I started this talking about how CES has more media and marketing folks here than ever before. And some of the things I'm hearing is that, of course, there's convergence with all of the video providers and what's happening with Disney and Warner Media Discovery and all of those kinds of things now. But there's also convergence with agencies. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that brands are kind of getting tired of having to have 87 different shops that don't necessarily communicate. So I think that you're forward thinking. Clearly your tech is forward leaning. I know you've got some irons in the fire, Aaron. I can practically see the wheels turning.
Always.
Yeah. So let's just end it on a forward thinking note. Have you seen anything or want to see something here at the show?
We have not walked the floor. It has been a hot topic
There's
for us.
kitty litter in your future.
Yes. I don't want to speak for Aaron, but he's a bit of a car nut. So I think we're going to want to probably hit the automotive floor,
It's
right?
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Be nice.
I'll say that I was so proud to be part of the 500 Women Walk at CES. Shelley Zallis built that.
I saw that this morning.
We toured the automotive section.
I
and
totally would have done
everything.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
But we did meet Ronald from Jury Duty.
That was the highlight of our day
From
yesterday.
that show?
yes.
The TV show?
Yes.
And he was awesome.
Wow.
Yes.
It was absolutely awesome.
We were meeting with Amazon yesterday, and they were talking about Freebie and talking about jury duty, and we were like, oh, we love that show. And they're like, Ronald is right around the corner. Do you want to get a picture? And we're like, yeah, yes.
Yeah. See, and my sort of equivalent of that is I saw Damon John trying on interactive eyeglasses, and I snapped a photo of that
Love
really
it.
quick.
Love it.
So I love this show. I think it's great. I get to meet great forward-thinking people like you and marketing architects. Anyway, so fun. I hope that you'll come back and give us the recap on insider interviews.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
All right.
Fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, you know, the beautiful thing I've been talking about at CES are the people that you run into. It's not just the tech from robots that do manicures, but it's really the wonderful people. So I was here at a very important gathering with She Runs It and Double Verify and See Her, and just a great group of people. And one of them is Tamara Zubatiy. And she is the founder of a really cool company called Barometer. And I'm happy to see you because you're so well spoken, and I know that you're helping the podcast industry a lot with Barometer. Hey, Tamara, how are you?
Hey, it's great to see you, Evie. You're doing so well. It's my first CES. I could not be more excited.
Welcome. Yay. It's pretty cool, right?
It's so cool. So epic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So tell us about Barometer and why you decided to come to CES for the first time.
So Barometer is a brand safety, brand suitability, and contextual targeting solution for user-generated content.
Amazing. All rolled into one.
All rolled into one, and podcast is our beachhead. And podcast is the longest and most nuanced type of content, so we really love that as a starting point.
Yeah. Well, that's how I know you, is from that aspect of the industry. But as I said, I've heard you explain it at conferences, and your enthusiasm is great. And I guess that's what a founder needs, right?
Totally. At this point, it's still a lot of founder-led sales, and John as our CRO.
John Sardellis.
John Sardellis, yes. Just an incredible, legend.
Yes, he
in
is.
the
I know him from way back.
Yes. And really what our goal has been is to make audio something that is buyable, to just totally dispel any of the myths about the brand safety and make it possible for folks to actually target based on their unique suitability needs.
So from a CESE kind of mentality, what's the sort of secret sauce? How does Barometer do that? Is this AI driven? What's the magic behind the tech?
Great question. So I'm a machine learning engineer by training. That's what my graduate degree is in, and so is our co-founder. And so we basically wrote an AI that listens to all the podcasts and watches all of the video accompaniments and analyzes them for all of the things that advertisers care about using the very latest kind of methods. And we're very fortunate to be alive at this moment in time when the methods have just exponentially increased in power, and we're able to do analysis in any language. And we're able to do really amazing targeting and monitoring of every single episode and every single impression. And that's really made buyers, the biggest buyers, Fortune 100 companies, more confident in their ability to buy podcasts.
Yes.
And that's been our whole kind of focus, is podcasting is such an amazing opportunity, and we feel like the largest brands in the world just haven't been able to take advantage of it because of the challenge of vetting the content at scale.
It's true. And, I talk a lot about this with Matt Prohaska, and you probably recall an episode I did with Lou Pascalis about the issue of news and how it deserves a better profile, and people need to understand that can be perfectly brand safe. So I applaud what you're doing. Didn't I read some kind of news about you though and the company?
Yeah, so we're currently partnered with 8 of the top 10 podcast publishers in the world.
Get down.
It's incredible. We're primarily US focused, but this year we've now expanded globally. And one of the really cool things that I'm really grateful for is for our ability to work with a variety of news publishers. So Barometer was originally founded at the time I was in college, and my generation didn't listen to the news.
Yeah.
And they actually were proud of that for some reason. And I was there like, well, there's actually a lot of really great news that maybe you should consider like listening to, because you have to vote and do these other things that are really important. And so it was a great privilege for our ability to work with and be able to really evaluate NPR.
Yeah.
Some of the secret sauce, if you will, behind Barometer is it's not just the sentiment, but it's the tone. How are you really speaking about the subject, and being able to understand the differences between somebody that is just like talking about something like female reproductive rights, or like having a very strong negative opinion about that.
Great point. Yeah.
And there's so many purpose-driven brands, like MasterCard is a really great purpose-driven brand. And they see news not as a monolith, but as a contextually relevant thing that their customers care about. And we really see that as the future of news and brand suitability.
So, Tamara is just the perfect example of the brains you can come across at a cocktail party or walk in the halls of CES. So thank you for what you're doing for the world, and thank you for stopping and chatting with me in the midst of our little cocktails.
Thank you so much for telling our story.
You bet. Well, I hope you got some good insider scoop from this episode of Insider Interviews with me, E.B. Moss. If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/mossappeal. And I hope you'll follow Insider Interviews on social media and let me know if you have a question or a suggestion for a next stellar guest in media, marketing, and advertising. Speaking of stellar, my theme music was composed and performed by the incomparable Grammy-winning John Clayton. If I can help you with your company's podcast, please find me at mossappeal.com. Thanks again for listening.